For our character animation, we are going to set it up as 1920 by 1080p, and we're doing this in Photoshop. All right, so we have the canvas all set up. This is my reference image for my character. So if you drew your character by hand, you're welcome to take a photo of it, open that in Google Drive, or upload it in Google Drive, and then bring it onto your computer so you can trace that layer if you wish to. And I'm starting out with the shape tool, the ellipse tool, to create the eyes. So I'm going to be going over the eyes and then messing around with the colors a little bit and the fill, making sure it's set to shape and not path. And the cool thing about eyes is that generally you'll have two of them, and so I can go ahead and also duplicate that layer if I need to. To duplicate, you can right click and go to duplicate layer, or you can press Ctrl J on the keyboard. And now I'm naming my layers as well, just to stay organized. And this is really important if you want to stay organized with your work. Next, I'm going to be using the brush tool, and I'm setting it as 100% for hardness and just making it a little bit smaller. I'm going to do a new layer as well. This will be the body of my little character. And I'm going to show you the difference between using the mouse and using the drawing tablet. So there I was using the mouse, and I don't have much pressure sensitivity there, so it's just kind of creating basic lines. In order to get sensitivity to the brush, I can go to brush settings underneath window, choose shape dynamics, and then select pen pressure. And when I use the drawing tablet, it's going to give me pen pressure. So you can see I can do thick lines, thin lines. It just has more of a hand-drawn quality to it, which is what I would like for the body of my character. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to make sure I'm on the right layer, and I'm basically going to kind of trace over the little hairs of the body of my character, and this is going to create the same exact look as my reference image or my reference drawing. All right, now I am using the pen tool to go over the feet. I'll also do the ears with the pen tool. And I'm just changing the fill here and the stroke. And these will just be on their separate layers. The nice thing with using the pen tool or the shape tool is that it just automatically makes separate layers in the layers panel for you. So now I'm just going back and renaming those layers so I can keep track of which one is which. So I have right foot, left foot, and then I'll have right ear and left ear. So you can see I've used just about every tool I've recommended so far. So the shape tool, pen tool, and brush tool for different effects. And then once again, naming those layers to stay organized. And I'm going to hand draw the mouth and eyebrows. I'm realizing here that my the size isn't going to work here in the color. I want to change that, so I'm going to do that. I'm doing another layer because I realized I might want to move those eyebrows around independently of each other. Now I'm doing the mouth. I decided I didn't like that one, so I redrew it with the drawing tablet. So a big difference between using the mouse and the drawing tablet. And then I just turn off my reference layer to double check and make sure that I got a lot of it, most of it. I realized later on that my character is transparent, and here I'm just saving it. So this is a good time to save. I got a lot of work done. I'm going to save it, and then I'll keep working. So at least then I have a backup copy to go to. Now I'm going to Pixabay. I'm going to find a background to put my character on. So you are allowed to use Pixabay for backgrounds. You're welcome to illustrate your background as well. But if you need to save a little time, if you have more of a complex character, you're welcome to search for Pixabay images. And then notice you can search for different types of images. So photos, vectors, illustrations, etc. So I'm just going to scroll through. I'd like some kind of forest floor type background for my character. There's something kind of gnome-like about my character, so I was looking for one with a mushroom as well. And I found one, and I can click download, and then I'll go back to Photoshop, and we'll go to File, Place Embedded. And then I need to make sure that this layer is stretched out so it fills up the whole canvas, and then I'll make sure that that layer is below everything else, basically below my entire character. So this is when I realized, oh, darn it, he's transparent. So I realized I have to add a layer behind him to fill in his body. So I'm going to add a new layer, and then I'm basically just going to fill it in with a color, and you'll see me change the color of that a couple times. So I have my brush, I make it bigger, it's still 100% hardness. You may or may not need to do this for your character. And that will fill in his body color, basically. So I'm literally just coloring him in. If I tried to use the paint bucket here, it wouldn't work because he's not a solid, he doesn't have like a solid outline to him. So it actually worked out pretty well that I had the background in and then realized my mistake. I could easily go in and just color in a body, basically. And then I can paint bucket that to change the color, which you'll see me do in a minute. So I'm kind of playing around with colors here in the paint bucket, seeing what works. And I realized I really don't like any of those colors, and I wanted to modify it a little bit and steal that color blue, but make it lighter, so more of a periwinkle blue, or lavender blue almost. Do file save, just in case. All right. And now I'm going to group all these layers together. So I click on the top one and hold Shift on my keyboard and click on the last one. Right click in that empty space there, and then you're going to go to Group from Layers, name your group. And I always like to make a copy of the group, so I'll right click on that and go to Duplicate Group. You can also do Control J, and that will duplicate the group as well. So then I have a backup copy to go back to that I just turn off. And then I have this whole group here that I can merge together if I want to do that, or I can just independently animate the parts that I need to. So you can see here I went ahead and I selected all those layers again with Shift. Then I was able to move everything all together. Now I'm looking for my timeline. So I go to Window, Timeline, bringing that down a little bit. It's all about visibility of layers with animation. Here we go. And I'm just kind of showing how to do Puppet Warp on the mouth here. So I went to Edit Puppet Warp. I made sure I was on the mouth layer, and you'll see I can kind of basically make the mouth into a smile rather than having to redraw it over and over again. I'm just basically duplicating that mouth layer, and that's going to allow me to warp it. So I'm duplicating it, then I'm warping it a little more, then I'm duplicating it again, then I'm warping it a little more, and you'll see me do this with the body of my character as well. So now I'm going to start putting it all together, and I'm basically creating my frames now from frame animation. So I'm turning the layers on and off. And then when I play it, you'll see the mouth moving, and it looks kind of silly, but I just have to play around with the speed. All right, now I'm going to make the pupils move. And anytime you're just moving something with the Move tool, you don't need to make new layers for that. So you'll see I'll be able to just move it. I'm just using the move tool. Do not do Control T, otherwise it's going to think you want to transform it and it's going to apply it to all your layers. And it's just going to mess everything up. So just use the move tool. Do not use Control T when you're just moving a layer. Now every time I'm moving the pupils, I make a new frame and then I move the pupils. And then I go down, add a new frame, move the pupils. Looking pretty good. Here is where I decided I needed to combine all of that group. So I went ahead and grabbed that layer and I decided to, my top layer for my character, and then I highlighted it and selected the bottom layer. So I'm just making a duplicate basically so I can keep those layers there, and then click OK. I'm going to turn that off. And then I'm taking those layers and then highlighting them and then right-clicking and rasterizing and then right-clicking and choosing Merge Layers. And this merges them all together as one. And this is going to allow me to do some puppet warping. And it keeps my animation the same, so I don't have to worry about that. If it does change it, you can just go back to the first frame and just double check that everything's working. So sometimes you have to turn layers on and off when you go to the first frame. And I'm also reorganizing here, trying to get it to move above the group there. So now I'm just going to call this my character, basically. I can move them all around. He's all one layer. Easy to puppet warp. I'm just double checking here, making sure the right layer is turned on so it's not covering up all of my work. All right, when you're ready to do some puppet warping, you're going to probably want to duplicate it. So Control J or duplicate layer. And you'll have to do this for each piece that you want to puppet warp. So you'll see me doing several layers that are puppet warped. All right, so you will see me continue here to warp it a little bit, and I just want it to look like his body's moving a little bit, so just small adjustments to his feet and his ears and his body, his arms, and I do that for each layer. So I just do Control J to duplicate, and then Edit, Puppet Warp to transform, and you can see how those layers are changing. You turn all the layers on to show you what you're working with to see how much they've changed. And now I'm just putting it all together. So now I need to add more frames here, make sure the right frames are turned on and off. So if you see something that isn't supposed to be there, click on that frame and then double check your layers panel to make sure the correct layers are turned on or off. So here's where I'm doing that. So this is why it's a big deal to do most of your layers first and then do the animation. I kind of did it wrong or showed you the wrong way to do it, which, it'll still work. It just gets to be a little messy. So it can be a little more complicated if you are building your layers while animating at the same time. But you can see his movements starting, and he's looking pretty cute. And I definitely have to add more layers, but this is a good start. Now you can see that I'll move him a little bit as well. Just to get a little more movement. And that is basically it for using Puppet Warp. I'm saving it, and I'm ready to continue on animating to complete my character animation.